Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Strategic Priorities, Communications, and Intergovernmental Cooperation Committee meeting for Thursday, August 22nd. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Just an approval of the agenda. Can I get a mover? Moved by Deputy Mayor Yankoff, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. And conflicts of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest here today? Seeing none, okay. And Mayor Brown will hopefully be back here shortly. He had to step out to attend another matter. Approval of minutes for the July 10th, 24 meeting. Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Deputy Mayor Yankoff. Any business arising from those minutes? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to our first item. And it's the bylaw priority ranking report. So I'll turn this over to our CAO, Eleanor Mohammed. And Eleanor, if you can take us through the information on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the city has 52 active bylaws, and with the majority of them, they do need some updates. So with that many different bylaws that we do need to look at, we thought it was best to do a survey with council and also with management to get an idea of the prioritization of what should be worked on first. So attached with this report are the results of the survey, combined both council and management, the results. And there's really two ways the committee can go about this. We can take it forward as is and ask for endorsement of council with this list, or we can send the priority list through each committee, each respective committee that would be responsible for these bylaws, and ask them if this is the order that they would like them addressed in, if that makes sense. So it's all laid out for you there. When I review the list, to me, the results make sense in terms of need, of priority, and really it's just for discussion today and how you'd like to move forward with this. Thanks.
All right, I'll open the floor up to any discussion on the matter. Councillor McKinnon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, CAO Mohammed. Personally, I think for efficiency and time is to send the report to council. I think as council's already voted or selected the choices for which bylaws we wanted to see, I think bring it to council and have us look at it there instead of going through each committee. I think it'll be drawn out in a couple of extra long months for that. That's just my thoughts.
Deputy, any thoughts?
I don't know. Part of me thinks they should go through committee, but I mean, council did rank the bylaws. Council's going to have some discussion anyways, because I already see some discrepancies in here where there's going to be some pushback with council. Is this, what's the staff's recommendation? Is this to move it on to council?
Thank you. That would be the most efficient way. I also just I appreciate the value to some of the committee chairs and the committees to be able to discuss this stuff before it goes to council. But the most efficient way to move forward would be just to take it to council and have a group conversation. Do we agree with at least the top 5 for each category? And then we can move forward.
Can I, as chair, can I express my thoughts on? Yeah, sure. I think it's, I know it would be the quick and easier thing to do to go through the, have it discussed at council. I think we could lose some perspective. I think it can get I think the discussion can get kind of lost. One of the things that kind of came through when we were looking at the survey results, and it kind of came back as maybe an area of concern or a lack of understanding, was some of the proposed new bylaws that are there. sorry, I don't have my readers on, but the community standards bylaw was one that I don't know if we fully understand what that is. I don't fully understand, and you and I, thanks, Councillor McKinnon. I know, Eleanor, you and I have had some discussions, and I kind of have a bit of an idea, but I think there would have to be, I would personally support this going back to at least the next council meeting or the committee meetings, and them saying, here's what we think is the most important, because I don't necessarily feel comfortable in suggesting that, water and sewer, I'm not on water and sewer, and so I don't know whether what is that, snow removal bylaw or the water and sewer utility bylaw is the most pressing issue. I really don't know. But I think it would be worthwhile for them to take that feedback that came back from council and see what is the most appropriate course of action. So I think in the interest of maybe one committee meeting, it might be worthwhile to take that time and sort of allow the committees to make their recommendations, as we do with most initiatives, or all initiatives that come forth to council, usually come forth with some sort of recommendation. So I think it goes back to kind of respecting the local knowledge that those committees may have as to what is actually important. So I would like to have the opportunity for the second thought, although it may take a little bit longer. I mean, we've waited how many months anyway? What's another month maybe to get it done? And then the committee can come back and say, here's what we think. And then council can say, we agree or we should be reconsidering that. Just one question I have, maybe, Eleanor, and maybe you could answer this for me. Are these results purely the councillors, the results of the councillor, or does this also incorporate senior leaderships? I don't know who participated in the survey.
Thank you, Chair. It's council and department heads.
Council and department heads.
Yeah.
So the results here are just the raw data of that survey that come back and say,
Chantel, they were two separate surveys, though, that were sent.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then they got combined to tally what order the rankings were for the program.
okay, so the two surveys were combined, and we come up with a final ranking on that. Okay,
Chair?
sure, go ahead.
Are we able to see actual council's rankings? Because that's where the debate will happen on the council floor. And I know I'm just seeing some of the top priorities, and just from talking to a lot of the other councillors, I would think that maybe it's a bit skewed, because we have maybe the senior leadership team and council maybe not quite aligned, but are we able to see both separate surveys, or is that a? Yeah. That'd be great. But I tend to agree with Councillor Beck, now that I've listened to some of the rationale. I do think we probably should do our due diligence and let the committees that each of these bylaws fall under have that discussion. I agree with you.
Okay. One other thing, if I could ask, Eleanor, can we have a little bit of a, I don't know if, not necessarily today, but a little bit of a bit of further understanding as to what the newly proposed bylaws mean? I think that, I do know that when we were having the discussion again about that, people didn't know. I don't know whether I should be, they were saying, I don't know whether I should be putting that in as a priority or not, because I don't fully understand what it's about. And maybe that might be something that would be good to have as a bit of a overview, or a breakdown, or a little bit of an understanding as to what those bylaws would address, or what those bylaws would be entailing. Would that be doable?
I think it's definitely doable. There's not many of them on the list.
No,
There's, what,
exactly.
like 3 of them or something like that, 4 of them.
Yeah.
So we could provide an explanation of what that is.
Like, I think the procurement bylaw and the capital cost recovery bylaw, we already are aware of that, because those have been before council. So I don't think they would necessarily require a whole lot of explanation, because we've been dealing with those. The ones that sort of come to mind would be the park and park usage, the capital construction bylaw, and the community standards bylaw were sort of three that jumped out for me that I think people might require a little bit better understanding of. And then I think that would further help, who are those under? We don't even have a department under communities. We don't even have some of those attached in terms of what department it would be. So I think there's just a little bit more, it's great to have. I think it was a good exercise for us to go through. But I think we should go back to various committees and let them kind of put forth recommendations. So without formally voting, it would seem that Councillor McKinnon, are you okay? Are you okay with that going back that way?
Yeah, no, I'm not
You're
hung
not-
up one way or the other.
not hung
It's
up
just
one
my
way or the other.
suggestion. is to
Sure.
go,
Yeah, no problem. Great.
Expedite it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, well, are you good with that then, Eleanor, in terms of a direction for the committee to take it with? The other thing I was wondering, Eleanor, maybe it would be, we would know further after the fact, but would we be taking, like, would each department be looking at it and saying, okay, we're going to focus on 3, or we're going to focus on 2, or we're going to focus on them all that apply to each department? What's the kind of the feeling as to how
Thank you,
that
Chair.
might unfold?
Realistically, it'll be
Realistic-
one bylaw at a time.
One
in
bylaw
each-
at a time.
In each department. That's
Okay.
all we have resources for.
Yeah.
Unless throughout the budget process, we hire some consultants in here to turn more of it around.
Okay. And who would it be the, like, the directors that would be overseeing those bylaw revamping?
Yes,
Each-
well, depending on which area that they're under. Like, for instance, procedural, might be Dan, might be me, kind of split between the two. But, yeah, I think what we'll do, if we're going to send it through committee, we'll categorize them under standing committees.
Yeah.
And then you'll be able to see, it's in here, but just, it'll be set up a little differently.
Yep.
And then it will show which department that it falls under. But it would be a combination of efforts between department heads and the director.
Yeah.
And our strategic initiative officer, that position is going to be posted any day now. So that person will help as an overall coordinator for all these different policies and bylaws.
Okay.
But ultimately, it will be done by department. And really, the capacity is like, we don't have an army of policy and bylaw writers here, so it's going to be about one at a time in
Sure.
each department.
Okey doke.
Chair,
Yep, go ahead, Deputy.
I'm just wondering if these are going back to the committees, how come there's so much work being done on the capital construction bylaw when council hasn't even recognized that as a priority? And I just know there's a lot of work being done on that. Should that not wait until we know if that's going to be the priority within that department?
My only knowledge on the work that's being done right now is on the council code of conduct bylaw.
Well, didn't we have like somebody come in, a guest speaker about it and spoke all
Well,
about
about the
it?
cap, like fees, that, it hasn't even got really to that point yet. I think they're just
Okay.
doing a background study.
Okay.
But the actual drafting of a bylaw, we're
Right.
not there
But even
yet.
even the waste of resources on a background study, if council doesn't want to proceed with that, that's the part I meant, like all that background work before we even know if that's what a priority for council.
Well, I think that work went forward. It was brought through to council for a decision to move forward to look at that, and that's what was approved in this chamber. So that's why that's moved forward. But whether we can complete
Sorry,
the...
Eleanor, wasn't that the capital cost recovery one?
Yes.
Yeah, not the capital construction. Because
So
there's
which
two,
one is
there's
this one
capital
then?
construction
Do
bylaw,
you know?
and then there's a capital cost recovery bylaw. And I thought the cost recovery bylaw was the one that we were looking at possible fees for future development is to reduce the cost of development, and I think that's still in works. So maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I thought they were kind of,
I think we might be talking about the same thing.
I don't know, maybe. Well, yeah,
But we will look-
I
we'll
thought the
look into
deputy was
that before
talking
the
about
list.
capital construction bylaw, and then,
Well, that's the only one I see in there.
Yeah, so I think that's the one that the fees work is being done for, but we can look into that as well.
okay. All right, so go ahead, Dan.
And just a little background on that through the chair to Councillor, Deputy Mayor. The study is really about trying to give some context to what development charges might look like and how they might roll out, what some other jurisdictions are doing. Interestingly enough, had a discussion yesterday with Stratford CAO, and they have development charges in place, and so this is not new, but it's new to Charlottetown. So trying to put a little bit of to paint a picture before really council is in a decision-making position, because we want to provide some of that background. I think is really the rationale for doing that work.
Chair,
Go ahead, deputy.
did I hear correctly? You said Stratford already has this in place? Because it was my understanding no municipality on PEI is doing this as of date. Maybe I heard it wrong.
Yeah, based on my discussion yesterday with CAO, I believe they do have development charges. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so more work to come, and it will revert back to committee. So moving on to item 7, motion to move into a closed session as per the Municipal Government Act of PEI, Section 119(1)B. That is, information received in confidence which, if disclosed, would likely be prejudicial to the municipality or parties involved. And the topic is an indemnification agreement. Can I have a motion to move into closed session? Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by the deputy. So we will move into a closed session. Thank you. All right, we're back from the closed session. Thank you, folks, for your participation in that discussion, and we will be moving this issue on to council for further deliberation, again in a closed session at our next council meeting. Should be, okay. All right, item number 8, any business? So nothing arising from the closed session. Any introduction of new business? No? All right, motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by the deputy. Thank you for coming and thank you for tuning in. See you soon.